Chapter 4. The Grace He Left Behind. Jake hadn't expected to run into Grace Hawthorne so soon. Then again, he hadn't expected to come back at all. Silver Ridge had a way of rewriting expectations, especially when it came to people you once thought would always be there. He found her outside the community center. Newly painted, with flower beds lined in clean stone and a mural of mountain peaks stretching across the east wall. A group of volunteers were loading canned goods into boxes under Grace's direction, each person moving efficiently like they knew exactly what to do and didn't need to be told twice, except they had been told, quietly, clearly, and probably by Grace. She stood on the sidewalk, clipboard in hand, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense twist. Her jeans were scuffed at the knee, and her white button-up shirt had a faint streak of blue paint on the sleeve. But there was no mistaking it. Grace Hawthorne was in charge. Jake hung back for a moment, watching the scene unfold. "You plan to lurk there all afternoon?" she called without looking up. "Or just until I turn around?" Jake blinked. She turned then, slowly, one eyebrow raised in that same calm, unreadable way she used to level at him when they were kids, and he said something dumb, which had been often. "Hey, Grace," Jake said, hands stuffed in his jacket pockets. Grace took 2 steps toward him, then stopped. "You're taller," she said finally, "but not necessarily wiser." Jake chuckled. "I'll take half a compliment." She crossed her arms. "I heard you were back. Rose told me. So did Walt and Millie and Pastor Allen. This town circulates news faster than it circulates prayer requests." Jake responded, knowing just how true that statement was. "I'm surprised you didn't send a delegation. We considered it," Grace was quick to reply, "but the bake sale committee was busy." Jake laughed, a real one this time. Not the kind you offer out of politeness, but the kind that catches you off guard and makes you remember who you used to be. Grace had a way of steadying him. She always had, even back when they were just kids circling the same classrooms and sidewalks. Not one of his closest friends, but always there, with that quiet pull, subtle, steady, like a compass he hadn't realized he was following. He smiled, but it faded fast. "You look strong." Grace tilted her head. "I am." There was no arrogance in it, just truth. Jake shifted his weight. "You're running the community center now?" "I started as a volunteer coordinator. Then the board asked me to take the lead. It's not flashy, but it matters. People need steady things in unsteady times." He nodded slowly. "You've always been steady." Grace raised a brow. "And you've always run from anything that required it." Ouch. But fair. Jake looked down, scuffing his boot against the sidewalk. "So, you think I came back to run again?" Grace was quiet for a moment, searching his face. "No," she said finally. "I think you're trying not to. That's different." There was something in the way she said it. No accusation, no expectation. Just the truth, given like a folded map with one road highlighted in yellow. The weight of her honesty hit harder than any insult might have. He looked up and met her eyes. "I found my dad's journal," he said quietly. "In the workshop." Grace blinked, surprise flickering behind her calm. "He was building more than a bridge," Jake went on. "He was building trust, legacy. Scriptures all over his notes, stuff I never saw when I was younger." Grace folded her arms again, but not in defense. It was more like she was holding something together inside herself. Jake cleared his throat. "So, what do you think about the bridge?" Grace narrowed her eyes. "Honestly?" Jake lifted his brows, a half smile tugging at his mouth. "Preferably." He scratched the back of his neck, the way he always did when he was bracing for impact. She smirked. "Careful, Weston. Truth has splinters, and you're leaning on the railing." Jake gave a small nod, feeling a little uneasy about an answer that required a caution to proceed. "Go ahead." He leaned back a little, crossing his arms like armor, though his eyes stayed on her. "I think it's complicated," she said. "Some folks want it gone, some want it finished, and some just want to stop feeling like it's a tombstone no one has the courage to remove." Jake winced. Grace never sugarcoated a thing, and if he wanted honesty, brutal or not, he'd come to the right source. There was nothing personal about her answer, just straight facts. You asked? She added, not unkindly. It's not the bridge itself, it's what it reminds people of. Promises left half-built, people who left before they should have, pain nobody patched up. And me? Grace added. I want to see if the person who starts it this time will finish. Jake nodded. You're not going to make this easy, are you? She smiled faintly. Not my job. He ran a hand over his face. I didn't expect things to be the same, but I guess I hoped. That your return would come with a standing ovation and a clean slate? Grace interrupted before Jake could finish his thought, much less his sentence. He gave a humorless chuckle, maybe just fewer side eyes from Rose. Grace softened then, just a little. People are watching, Jake, but they're also hoping. No one said it out loud, but I think we'd all rather see the bridge finished than forgotten. He looked at her. And what about you? She paused. I think time changes people, and sometimes it gives them a second chance to do something right. Jake swallowed hard. I don't know if I'm the one for that. Grace didn't flinch. Then find out. The words landed like an invitation sealed in conviction. Grace never pushed, but she never let things slide either. If you mattered, she told you the truth, even when it hurt. Just then, a teenager waved from the steps with a clipboard in hand. Grace, we need more gloves in the tool shed. She held up a hand in acknowledgement and turned back to Jake. I've got to get back, she said. But if you stay, you'll need help, not just with bolts and beams, but with people. Let me know if you're serious. Jake hesitated. What if I mess it up again? Grace smiled, tired but sure. Then we rebuild. That's what bridges are for. She turned and walked away, clipboard under her arm, already back in motion. Jake stood rooted for a moment longer, watching her move through the crowd. Greeting a boy with tangled shoelaces, handing a bottled water to a flustered teen, waving at someone in a passing pickup like she'd known them since kindergarten. She hadn't just stayed in Silver Ridge, she'd sewn into it. He watched her go, a strange ache settling in his chest. Not regret, exactly. Grace had always been steady, the kind of friend you could depend on without question. But as she disappeared into the flow of the crowd, he couldn't shake the thought that maybe, somewhere along the way, he had missed something he was only now beginning to notice. Jake lingered outside the community center for a while after Grace walked away, her words echoing louder than the hammering coming from the youth crew behind her. Then we rebuild. That's what bridges are for. He turned toward the road, but his feet hesitated. He wasn't ready to go back to the workshop. Not yet. Marcus's place wasn't far. Just enough of a drive to rehearse 100 versions of what he might say, and discard every one of them. It had been years since they'd last spoken face to face, and even longer since it had felt like anything close to brotherhood. Maybe ever since Mom died. Jake exhaled slowly, eyes scanning the edge of town. She'd been the one who smoothed the edges between them, the one who understood Tom and translated his silences into something softer. When she was gone, the house didn't just feel emptier, it felt colder, like someone had removed the center beam, and everything else began to drift apart. Tom had tried. Jake could admit that now. But grief had reshaped the man like weather over stone, hardening what was already tough, isolating what was already quiet. And Jake had been too young, too angry, too full of questions to understand that a builder doesn't always know how to fix a broken heart. He glanced down at the journal under his arm. Pastor Allen had said Tom started writing because he didn't know how to speak it, that he poured everything he couldn't say into these pages, hoping someday one of his sons would be able to read more than just the lines on the page and feel the love with which he wrote them. Maybe it was time to stop running from those pages, and from the one person who still carried the other half of the story. Jake crossed the street, dust kicking up beneath his boots. It was time to face Marcus.